Welcome to the next video. In this video I want to show you another Python linter, which is called Flake8. This linter is also managed by the Python Code Quality Authority, and it is also found here on the GitHub page of PyCQA. So here I'm at pycqa/flake8. Flake8 is a Python linter that puts more effort in checking the PEP8 guidelines than Pylint did. And we already installed Flake8 in the requirements.txt file. But if you want to upgrade or install Flake8, you can just install it via pip. So I'm here on the official documentation, and we can use it by calling Flake8 and then pathing in the Python file we want to check. So I copied the vector to decode that we had as a starting point in the first Pylint video. So I can show now which warnings we will receive here with Flake8 and can compare it with the warnings we received with Pylint. And let us run Flake8 on the file. So at first we have to be in the directory where the file lies that we want to test, or we could also call Flake8 and then pass in, for example, the relative path to the file or the absolute path to the file. That would be okay too, but I want to change the directory to chapter 2 and then to the pep8 directory. And now I can run Flake8 and then test_flake8.py. And it's called flake8.py. So now we get the warnings or errors of Flake8. So here we see a pretty similar output. We see the file, we see the line and the column. Then we see the warning code. So Flake8 has also warning codes. And then we see the text of the warning. And now we see here, okay, the error text is expected 2 blank lines, found 1 in line 4. So in the PEP8 standard, it is stated that after the import part, so our import blocks of standard library, third party, first party, there should be 2 lines, 2 blank lines before starting defining functions or classes, etc. If I now added here the second blank line, the Flake8 warning disappeared. And now we have the warning in line 8 with the white spaces, with the trailing white spaces, as we saw before for Pylint, also in line 47. If I now rerun Flake8, we still have 1 warning left. The warning W292, no new line at end of file. So if I add a new line here and I rerun Flake8, we have no warnings left. So as I said before, Flake8 is about the PEP8 style guidelines and do not check if your code is working properly. Pylint will check if your code is working and will check a bit of the PEP8 guidelines. So these two linters have a little different approach of what has to be checked for. And if you go back to the documentation, you can go to using Flake8, and here's also listed how to configure Flake8. So you could pass as command line arguments with errors or warnings you want to check. You can also add here or list the warnings you don't want to check. But my recommended way of configuring Flake8 is either you set up a setup.config file, a tox.ini file, or, which we will use for now, a .flake8 file. So I will create in the pep8 directory a .flake8 file. And here we can list the warnings we want to disable. If I go back to the documentation, I can scroll down a bit. And here we can see how the configuration file can look. We can now copy the whole part here paste it into the .flake8 file. And here we can list at the ignore all checks that we want to ignore. We can also list here at the exclude part which subdirectories we want to exclude from our Flake8 checks. And we have here the parameter max complexity. It is because Flake8 consists of different linters under the hood. And one linter will check the complexity of your code. For example, how many nested if statements you have, how many nested for loops you have, etc. And if we add here white spaces again and we rerun Flake8, we would receive the warning W291. And if we do not want to check for trailing white spaces, I can copy this warning code, paste it here at the ignore part. And if I now rerun Flake8, Flake8 will skip this warning and won't complain about trailing white spaces now. So here at the ignore part, we can just list all the checks we want to disable. So now the question is, how do I know which warnings exist? And then we can go to the error violation codes here. And here we see all of the error and violation codes that exist. And here we can see Flake8 installs under the hood PyCodeStyle, PyFlakes, and MacCape. MacCape is a tool that checks the complexity of your code. PyCodeStyle and PyFlakes will check the consistency with the PEP8 guidelines. And here we see all the error codes and the example messages of these error codes, and you can read through them. Also, here's a reference to the standard error codes. So there are different categories again. So here we had the violation codes that starts with an F, so the fatal errors, so to say. And if you go to the PyCodeStyles list of errors, we get to the standard error codes that starts with an E with different subcategories. And these have different subcategories. For example, all error codes that starts with a 7 are statement error codes, with a 5 are line length, with a 4 are import error codes, and so on. And as we saw, we have besides these F warnings, E warnings, we have also the W warnings or W error codes, and there are also subcategories. So for white spaces, blank lines, line breaks, and so on. So you can see all the checks that are run under the hood by Flake8 here in the list. And if you want to disable some, you can list them in the .flake8 file here in the ignore part. So if you want to ignore another, we can separate them by a comma. Just say we want to disable F501, we can list it here, separated by a comma. So this is the Flake8 tool and the .flake8 file that can be used to configure Flake8. And Flake8 is much faster to run on your Python code than Pylint, because Flake8 only checks your code on a much higher level. Pylint goes a bit more in depth and will check for recommendations for your for loops, for example, for exceptions and so on. So Pylint is a bit slower, and both linters have kind of different approaches. Okay, so that was Flake8, and we will see us in the next video. Bye bye.